So in this video I'm going to cover how you can profit from the board draw offer when you're match betting. Now the board draw offer is a pretty good offer and it's fairly similar to the 2-up offer. Now this offer isn't quite as popular as the 2-up offer and it isn't quite as good because a lot of the time you can't quite get the back odds with a bookmaker and the lay odds with a bet and exchange quite as tight as you'd want them to be. Now there are exceptions where you can get a really tight match with the back odds and the lay odds, but because of the qualifying markets that this offer is applicable with, it does make it a little bit more difficult. But with that being said, there's still quite a lot of profits that you can make from this offer, and a lot of match bettors do use this offer to squeeze out some pretty nice profits. So this video is going to be an extended video. So what we're going to do to make sure we waste no more time is we're going to jump right over to the computer screen and dive right in. Now, if you want to try OddsMonkey at any point, feel free to use my link down below in the description. You can get a free trial down below in the description of this video. Now with that being said, what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump over the computer screen and dive right in. Now the board draw offer is like one of the hidden gems in match betting. It's a really good offer and there's a lot of parallels with the 2-up offer. There's a lot of similarities between the two. Now with this offer you can actually lock in some really big profits because there is no maximum stake with the Bet365 board draw offer. So what I mean by that is you could bet like 500 quid on the correct score market and then lay it off on the exchange, and if it hit and it was 0-0 you could have an absolutely enormous profit. Now obviously I'm not saying do that and you would stand out like a sore thumb if you bet that much money in the correct score market. But you get what I'm saying. This is scalable. You can start with £10, work up to £20, work up to £50, then work up to £100. There's no max stake on this offer. So basically, this offer works by placing a back bet in the correct score market with the bookmaker. Now you want to bet on anything except 0-0. So this could be 1-0, 0-1, 1-1, 2-1, 1-2, anything except 0-0. Now if that correct score back bet loses and the game ends 0-0, so it ends as a board draw and you've backed 2-1, let's say, your back bet loses, the game ends as a board draw. What Bet365 do is they refund you your entire stake you used to back 2-1 in this example. Now when you're match betting, this is a really good opportunity to lock in some big profits. And as I said, there is no max stake, so you can scale this once you get comfortable with it. Now there are two strategies with the board draw offer, very similar to the 2-up offer. So the first strategy with the board draw offer when you're match betting is the no cash out strategy. Now this strategy is the easiest strategy to do. So if you're new to match betting or you don't like placing bets in play and cashing out in play and stuff like that, I would definitely stick to the no cash out strategy. It's the easiest strategy to do for beginners and people who don't want to place bets in play. Now the no cash out strategy is a low strike rate strategy. Now the reason it's low strike rate is because I think the average amount of goals scored per game in the upper levels of English football is around about 2.5, and I think that isn't quite common across different competitions as well. If the average amount of goals scored per football match is 2.5 and you're hoping for 0-0, you're hoping for no goals, you can see it's not going to happen super commonly, and as a result of that it is of course a low strike rate strategy. And just to add to that, it's kind of a high variance strategy as well. Just means the same thing as low strike rate. You're going to go on long losses for a long period of time. You need to be able to handle that on a psychological level. If you can't, it's probably best to look at the cash out strategy, which I'm going to show you in just a second. And as a result of those two things there, it will give you large inconsistent profits. So of course you'll go on long losing streaks for quite a long period of time, and then eventually you'll have a massive profit because the game ends 0-0, and that will wipe out all the small qualifying losses you've been taking along the way until you finally hit that board draw 0-0. So on the flip side of that, you've got the cash out strategy. Now the cash out strategy is just inverted and it's just the complete opposite of the no cash out strategy. So the cash out strategy, it's a high strike rate strategy. That means you're going to win continuously. These wins aren't going to be massive. They're going to be pretty small continuous wins, which obviously is going to feel real good on a psychological level to be winning all the time and continually making profits. Now just to add to that, it's a low variance strategy, so it's going to feel good on a psychological level to win all the time, albeit the wins will be really small. And just to conclude there, as I've just said a few times, you'll get small consistent profits, so the profits will be continually going up all the time as opposed to going down and then a massive profit every now and again with the no cash out strategy. Now both strategies are profitable, and I would hazard a guess as to these strategies being highly efficient. So what I mean by that is if you started both of these strategies on the first day of the year, you run them alongside each other for a whole year, at the end of the year you'd probably find that you'd have more or less the same amount of profit. The one thing that would be different, as I've touched on, is the variability. One of them you'll kind of have something like this, the other one you'll kind of have a slow increasing profit continually. So both strategies are profitable. So with that being said, what we're going to do is we're going to look at an example I've made up here. So you can see in this little example I've so eloquently made up, you can see we've got Arsenal versus Man United. Now what we're going to assume is that the correct score back odds for Arsenal to win 2-1 with the bookmaker Bet365 is 6.0. Then what we're going to assume is we jump over to Smarkets and we find the lay odds on the same selection for Arsenal to win 2-1 is 6.4. So the back odds 6.0 with a bookmaker for Arsenal to win 2-1. The lay odds 6.4 with a bet and exchange, also for Arsenal to win 2-1. Now just to add to that, and I don't want you to get confused by this, we'll come back to this in a little bit, but the lay odds for 0-0 are 14.0. Now don't get overly freaked out by that, we're just going to put that to the background for now, but we just need to be aware that the lay odds in this example for a 0-0 draw, a board draw, are 14.0 on the bet and exchange. Now we're going to start with a no cash out strategy. Now as I said earlier at the start of this video, the no cash out strategy is probably going to be more suited to you if you're new to match betting and you don't really like placing bets in play and stuff like that, and you just want it nice and simple, nice and arbitrary. This no cash out strategy is probably going to be the one that you want to go with. So with this, you would just simply find a correct score. We're going to use Arsenal 2-1 like in the earlier example. You would select the back stake you wanted to use, you'd pop it into the calculator, so £100 just for this example, and then you would find the correct score back odds for whatever you were backing. We're going to say Arsenal 2-1. Those back odds are 6.0, so of course you would put 6.0 into the back odds box just on the standard calculator, nice and simple. And then after you've done that, you would find the correct score lay odds for the same outcome, which we'll say again is 2-1 Arsenal, and we'll say that is 6.4. We'll put 6.4 into this lay odds box here. Now just like normal, just as normal, the calculator will provide you with results, so it'll tell you here your lay stake, £93.75 at the odds you'd specified, the lay odds that is 6.4, and then of course it will give you your overall qualifying loss, which in my case here would be £6.25. Now once you've done all that and once you've got all that information, you would just simply place your bets. You'd place your back bet with the bookmaker, and then you would place your lay bet on the same outcome with the bet and exchange. Now once you've done that, you can just kind of sit back, relax and hope and pray that the game ends 0-0. If it doesn't, you'll just take a small qualifying loss, but if it does, the bookmaker will refund your stake, and basically your profit will be your refunded stake, which will be whatever you used as your back stake, which is £100 in my case, minus your initial qualifying loss. So for me, I would have £100 refunded to me, and then I would minus the initial qualifying loss, which was about £6.25. So that would have been about £93 or £94 profit. Now just to break down the profit really quickly, I've got this from the trigger bet calculator on OddsMonkey, and what I'm going to do just for now is I'm going to remove this this trigger section here, just to keep things simple, because if I bring that in, I guarantee that will confuse you. It confused me when I first learned how to do this offer, so I'm just going to remove that and pretend that trigger section isn't there for now. I'll explain exactly how that works a little bit later on, but basically there's 3 different alternative outcomes that can occur. Now the middle one is the one that we want to occur. If the middle one occurs and we're doing the no cash out strategy, this is where we make a profit. So basically the middle one here, it says if the back bet loses and the trigger wins. So let's say we backed Arsenal at 2-1, that back bet loses, you can see here we'd lose our £100 with a bookmaker. But alternatively, of course, our back bet loses, our lay bet wins. You can see we have a profit of £93.75 with the exchange. And then if we jump over to this next section here where it says 100, and at the top here it says free bet. It's not actually free bet, that actually should say refund. So we're going to assume where it says free bet there, that basically says refund. So as the game has finished as a board draw, as the trigger wins, as it says there, the bookmaker refunds your back stake, and back stake in our example is £100. So you can see ultimately the total is shown down on the right there of £93.75. Now that's the ultimate outcome we want to occur if we go for the no cash out strategy. Now the other 2 alternative outcomes, the first one is this blue one here. It says if the back bet wins. So if the back bet wins, we back 2-1 Arsenal, the game finishes 2-1 Arsenal. We have a profit of £500 in this example with the bookmaker. But we lose our liability on the exchange as our lay bet loses, so we lose £506.25 there. And then if we go over to the free bet, which of course is the refund section, we don't get a refund because the game doesn't finish 0-0, and of course it finishes 2-1. That's why we win our back bet with the bookmaker. So you can see ultimately that sum equals a loss of £6.25. Now the third alternative is that the back bet loses and the trigger loses. So the game doesn't finish 0-0, so the trigger doesn't hit, and the back bet you place with a bookmaker, so 2-1 Arsenal, that also doesn't happen either. So if that's the case, you lose your back stake with a bookmaker, which is £100 in my case. You win your lay bet on the exchange, which is £93.75 in this example. And of course, the trigger loses. It doesn't finish 0-0. It isn't a board draw, so again, there's no refund. And you can see, again, the qualifying loss is £6.25. So the only way you can win with a no cash out is if this middle one occurs. If the bet loses, your back bet loses, and the trigger hits, the trigger wins, and the trigger, of course, is a 0-0. Okay, so next up we got the cash out strategy. Now the cash out strategy is a little bit more advanced. So basically, to cash out of the board draw offer, you lay 0-0 on the bet and exchange. Now I guarantee a few people will be a little bit confused by this. I'm going to explain exactly what I mean by that in just a second. But basically, just a little example here with this image, you would find the correct score market on Smarkets or Betfair or whatever you're using, and then you would simply lay the 0-0 outcome. Now to figure out what stakes and what odds you should lay 0-0 at, you need to use this calculator right here. Now this is an advanced calculator, as you can probably tell, there's a little bit going on, which is called the trigger bet calculator. Now what I'm going to do, because this is a little bit more advanced, this calculator, is I'm actually going to jump over to OddsMonkey's website and show you an example of how you use the trigger bet calculator. Okay, so I've just loaded up the trigger bet calculator on OddsMonkey. Now if you want to load up this calculator, you just go up here to Tools, click on Calculators, and then the trigger bet calculator is listed along this list, as you can see. It's right there where it says trigger bet calculator. Now this calculator is a premium calculator, and you need to have a premium account of OddsMonkey if you want to use it. And if you want to check out OddsMonkey for free, I've got a link down below in the description where you can get a free trial of OddsMonkey. It does help me out massively if you go through that link. And just very quickly guys, if you've enjoyed this video or you found it useful, please do tap the like button. It'll take you about 2 seconds. It helps me, my YouTube channel out absolutely massively. And if you want to subscribe as well, that also helps me out massively, and you'll get the videos as soon as they're released. So anyway, we've got the trigger bet calculator loaded up here on OddsMonkey, and you can see this calculator is certainly a little bit more advanced than the basic calculator. So if you're only used to doing basic match betting offers, this calculator might look a little bit overwhelming. Believe me, it really isn't, and I'm going to break down exactly how you can use a trigger bet calculator to cash out of this board draw offer. Now what I'd recommend doing when you first load this up, I'd recommend just removing all the figures from all the boxes. So the first box here, back stake, remove that. Back odds, free bet award, free bet retention, lay odds, lay commission, and then go down here to this trigger bet lay, remove the lay odds in this box, and then remove the lay commission in this box as well. Now once you've done that, you should see at the bottom all these NANs in red down at the bottom of the trigger bet calculator. This will basically just inform you that the preset is blank. The trigger bet calculator preset is completely blank, and we can just pop in the information that we're using on our offer. Okay, so what you want to do, you want to start at this top box here where it says enter bet details, and you want to pop in the back stake that you're using on the offer. Now in our example we used £100 back stake, so we're going to put £100 into that back stake box there. And then if we move across to the back odds box, you want to pop in the back odds that you place with a bookmaker, which in our case was 6.0. And then what we're going to do, we're just going to skip this free bet award and free bet retention just for a second. We'll move back to that in literally a second. So we're just going to jump down to this lay section here where it says lay odds, pop in the lay odds on the same selection which we laid on the exchange, which was 6.4, and then just to the right of that where it says lay commission, you want to enter in your lay commission. If you're with OddsMonkey, it'll be 0% with Smarkets, so just put 0 in there. And then what we're going to do is we're going to jump back up to this free bet award box here. And this is the first bit what's a little bit confusing. It's not that confusing, but it's a little bit weird. So where it says free bet award there, we're not actually looking for a free bet award. We're actually looking for a full refund. And that refund amount is exactly the same as what your back stake is. So as you can see, in my example, I've got a £100 back stake. So what I'll do is I'll put £100 into that free bet award box there, which essentially just means refund when using the board draw offer. So obviously if you've used a £50 back stake, the free bet award or the refund would be 50. If you're just starting out and you've used a £10 back stake, the free bet award, the refund would be £10. So basically these two numbers will both match up with each other right there. And then after you've done that, you just want to move over to this free bet retention box. And again, this doesn't mean free bet retention. This essentially means refund retention using the board draw offer. You're looking to retain 100% of your refund. So you want to pop in 100% into the free bet retention box. Now what you'll notice here is the lay stake box here and the liability has been populated. Now this lay stake and this liability is exactly the same as what you'd get on the standard calculator. So if you're going for the no cash out strategy, you don't need to use this trigger bet calculator. It's just going to confuse things and you may as well just use the standard calculator. But of course, if you're going for the cash out strategy and you're going for those continuous profits, obviously we do need to use this calculator. So we're just going to scroll down a little bit until we get to this trigger bet lay section here. Now the first option in this box is where it says method here. Now if you click into this box, there are 4 different methods, there's 4 different ways of laying. Now just for simplicity and just because this is a tutorial video, we're just going to go over 2 of them. Now the bottom one here where it says no lay, this essentially means no cash out, and that's what I've just explained in the first part of this video. So if you're going for the no cash out strategy, you don't even need to use this calculator, to be honest with you. Just use the standard calculator, get a really tight match, back and lay and you're done. But if you're going for the cash out strategy, you want to select normal, which is this top option at the top of the list here. Next up, what you want to do is you want to pop in the current lay odds on the betting exchange for 0-0. So as we touched on very briefly before, in our example, we're going to assume that the lay odds for 0-0 on the betting exchange are 14. So we're going to pop in 14 into that lay odds box there. And after we've done that, we're just going to move to the lay commission box, which is just to the right of that. And we're going to pop in 0%. Now once you've popped in the current lay odds on the betting exchange for 0-0 and you've popped in the lay commission that you're on with the betting exchange, what this trigger bet lay section will do here on the calculator is it'll provide you with a lay stake and along with that lay stake a liability. Now basically if you use this lay stake and you place a lay bet on 0-0 at lay odds of 14, you'll obviously get this liability. You place that lay bet, the lay bet gets matched, you essentially cash out of the board draw offer. And once you've placed your lay bet on 0-0 and once you've cashed out of the offer, your profit is displayed down here on the trigger bet calculator. So you can see if the back bet wins, we'd have a profit of 89p. If the back bet loses and the trigger wins, we'd have a profit of 93p. And if the back bet loses and the trigger loses, we'd have a profit of 89p. Now the way that you can increase the cash out profit is by letting the game play out without cashing out. So basically there's 90 minutes in a football match. As time elapses in the football match, the game finishing 0-0, so the game finishing as a board draw becomes more and more likely. And as a result of that, the lay odds and the back odds for that matter start to drop. So let's say 30 minutes have gone by in the match, it's still 0-0 and no goals have been scored. If this was the case, the lay odds on the betting exchange on 0-0 may then drop to let's say 9. So we'll pop in 9 into this lay odds box. And as you can see, once we've done that, this total section here increases. So the cash out profit increases because the lay odds have become shorter. Now this will continually occur the longer the game goes on. So let's say even more time goes by, and let's say the lay odds have now dropped down to 4.0. Now you can see, if we go down to the total again, the cash out profit is now significantly increasing because the board draw is becoming more and more likely. Now if we just break down the profit here, it's literally the same as I was showing you before. So if we start on this top one this time, if the back bet wins, we'd have a profit with a bookmaker there, we'd have a loss with a lay bet on the betting exchange there, and then we'd have a profit on the trigger. Now this is the section I didn't explain before and I'm going to quickly explain it now. So the trigger is basically what you'll win on this lay bet you place here. So let's say you choose to cash out, you place a £25 lay bet at lay odds of 4 on 0-0, you place the lay bet and you cash out. Now as you're laying 0-0, the game doesn't finish 0-0, you have your profit of 25 quid. And then we move to the next column, free bet, which again means refund in this example. We don't have a refund because the back bet has won in this case, which we're saying is 2-1 Arsenal. The back bet wins, therefore we don't get the refund here. And you can see the total is £18.75. Second alternative, if the back bet loses and the trigger wins, so the back bet you place with the bookmaker will say is 2-1. That bet loses and the trigger, which is 0-0, the board draw trigger, hits. So basically in this example we'd lose our £100 with the bookmaker. We'd win our lay bet because obviously we'd laid just the opposite of what we'd backed. Now this time we'd lose on this trigger section here because we'd placed our lay bet here on this trigger bet lay on 0-0 to cash out. And obviously the game actually finished 0-0 and as we'd laid 0-0 we'd simply lose the liability. I hope this is making sense. But because that had occurred on the next section, the free bet section, which again means refund, as the game finished 0-0, we'd then receive our back stake 100% refunded to us, which of course in our example was £100. So again you can see the result is exactly the same, £18.75. And finally, if the back bet loses and the trigger loses, so let's say we back 2-1 in our example, we'd lose our £100 because the game doesn't finish 2-1. We'd win our lay bet on the exchange because we'd laid 2-1, the game didn't finish 2-1. And on this next section, the trigger, we'd obviously placed our 0-0 lay bet to cash out. As we'd laid 0-0, the game didn't finish 0-0, we'd win our lay stake 25 quid. And on the final section, the refund section, as the game didn't finish 0-0, the trigger lost, we wouldn't get a refund. And you can see again, the profit is £18.75. So yeah, this can sound a little bit confusing, so just really try and digest how this works and what I'm saying. So basically, the lay odds are going to continually get shorter the longer the game goes on and the longer no goals are scored. Now, of course, if a goal's scored, you just have to take your qualifying loss. If the game reaches 90 minutes and there's no goal scored, it's essentially a board draw. The match finishes, it's at 90 minutes, the match finishes. What will essentially happen is the lay odds will go all the way down to 1.0. And when that occurs, you can see here the profit is basically the no cash out profit. And obviously what you're doing when you're cashing out somewhere between the starting lay odds for 0-0 and the lowest lay odds are 1.00. So yeah guys, hopefully that all makes sense to you. So if you've enjoyed this video and you want to see more content from me, feel free to hit one of the videos on screen now. Cheers for watching guys, and I'll see you soon in the next video.